Hey everyone, welcome back to the Archangel 15 and my ongoing Theory of Everything presentation series. This is part 13, video 2. We left off in the past video talking about the agenda to basically depopulate and kill off the middle class. I'm going to elaborate on this now, but in my opinion, like this whole fake coronavirus thing is just like subsequent to depopulation agendas that have already been going on. The whole heroin opioid epidemic was almost a Holocaust in and of itself, and in my opinion, not talked about to the full extent that it should have been. It was like as bad as it was, and as bad as we know about, they don't talk about it, and like how they tried to like proclaim Trump as this like big figure to like get rid of it. The truth is, they could have stopped it at any time they wanted to. Like they allow for like the purest South American Golden Triangle heroin to come into our ports, from and basically be peddled in little blue baggies on every corner of every major city, and eventually throughout all of suburbia. And this was not to target the rich kids. This was not to target minorities. This was to target middle-class white kids. I could take you and show you blocks, like whole entire blocks near me. They were just decimated. And I mean, those are the people that were killed. That's not even talking about the people who just like their lives are completely like they lost their soul. They're like a soul. People are soulless void, and like the damage that's done. And I saw, like I said, like when Bush was in, it was real quality. And then like as soon as Obama came in, they basically went to fentanyl and elephant and horse tranquilizers. I believe it was like the Bavarian Illuminati and these people that want our real estate is what it really comes down to. Why the middle class? Because they want our real estate. They saw all this beautiful real estate. And I'm telling you, like you say, oh, like it's not that big of a deal. Go around, go to Russia, go to Germany. Like no, but like all these other countries in Europe, they don't have the ability. Like where I live in the Northeast here, to drive to the Jersey Shore in like 2 hours, go to the mountains in a couple hours, go to New York City, go to Philadelphia, go out to the beautiful Amish country, go to D.C., go out to Virginia. Like we have it all, and they know this. And this is like, I truly believe that like the Trumps, the Kushners, and like other evil Zionists and the Bavarian Illuminati were behind this to like, kill off these white kids. And like, it's really sad. And I guess, somebody would say like, oh, well, it comes down to free will. But I don't really think a lot of chances they had free will. I think it was just like the curiosity kills the cat philosophy. And like a friend of mine once told me that the reason that the middle class like basically once like the upper class wants the middle class gone is because the middle class is the only ones in a position of power to challenge the upper class. They're the only ones that can afford to hire attorneys and to like call them out on their lies and stand up to them. And not only that, but they like hate they hate the fact that like these middle class people go to their beaches, they go to their nice restaurants, they go to their ski resorts, they go to their shopping malls, they drink their wine, they look at their woman, and like they're not part of the upper establishment that have this unjustifiable wealth, i.e., the silver spoons, and like they know this. And like my friend, his name was Justin, he told me this years ago, and like I probably would have like came to this in a roundabout way, but like that's really what it comes down to. It boils down to that. And like they don't like them attempting to portray this affluent image. Like, it's like either you have the money or you don't have the money. And, I have basically, okay, so like I said, I've been around, like, I've been to Russia many times. And I will tell you, in Russia, like, nobody smiles there. Like, everybody walks just like this. And it's because they grew up in this whole notion of this, like, communist, socialist agenda where, like, the lower classes have no chance of ever rising up. And like it's like when you kill that American dream and you take that hope away, you eventually get to a point where you don't smile. It's like you realize there's no point to life, and like that's where we're rapidly heading in this country. And like people like Donald Trump weren't the answer. Obama wasn't the answer. Bush wasn't the answer. I could go on and on about my disdain for every American president and how they're just shills to run this country into the ground. I back engineered the whole thing, and like the most beautiful analogy that I can paint for you, it's just like the Dark Knight bank robbery scene in the beginning with Heath Ledger. Amazing film, by the way, if you've never seen it. They had this school bus scene, and like there's all these people that are like taking part of this bank heist, and then like eventually this person kills this person, and then like at the end he's like, oh, I thought I was supposed to kill him or something like that, and then like the Joker like offs this person, and he's like the last one, and he takes away with all the money, and it's like that beautiful, like that amazing engineering strategy, you know, and like I basically believe in the end there will only be a few people that remain. The black people basically were used as pawns to like kill off the middle class kids with this heroin, and to like you know, they allowed him to have Obama. You know, the truth is Obama like was a joke, and like he, in my opinion, was not a Harvard Ivy League educated attorney. Like I just don't see it in his intelligence. Like there's just something like really fishy about Obama. I've talked to like very up high ranking Muslim people in the world, and they say that he was born in Africa, and that his brother doesn't even like him, that like from Africa. Like he gives the Muslims a bad name, and like started like ISIS, and he should, like I said, he literally should give his entire $2 million Nobel Peace Prize check to the Kremlin for having Putin clean up his mess in Syria and other places. And this is why the U.S. isn't as close to Israel as people think. Truth is Russia is protectors of Israel as well, and like, you know, everybody's, oh, we're supposed to protect the Jewish people. And like find it in the Bible where it really says that, first off. And like I can show you for every maybe quarter of a time it says that, there's 11 times where God came down, you know, is enraged to fury against the Jewish people and came down with brimstone and fire. Like, you know, you get my point. And the black, like I said, I think the black people, African American, whatever you want to call them, like, are basically used as pawns, and like they'll be like the last to go. And then, like, because, you know, they know that they're tough, and they're like, you know, using them to get through this. And like I said, these Chinese are just so amazingly brilliant to engineer this ornate system, you know, designed, you know, to have others achieve the end result for them without even needing to fight a single battle. And, you know, like I said, there's already 30 countries that are controlled by like China over there, like probably like the Philippines, probably, you know, Hong Kong, obviously one of them. You know, why? This is probably why we had such a difficult time in Vietnam, because, you know, like straight up, like China, you know, like probably was like the ones providing weapons, and probably like it was Chinese, like maybe they were, you know, also like subversive Chinese soldiers fighting against the U.S. as well. From what I've gathered, after the U.S. did these horrible atrocities in Iraq and Afghanistan, I have a presentation on this Iraq and Afghanistan war crimes, and now I've come to find out through my friend Filippo, the anti-nuclear proliferation peace tent right in front of the White House. Really cool story there. I have a presentation on that. He's been there since 1981. Allowed to stay there as long as somebody's at the tent 24 hours a day. They've tried like 60 times to shut him down, and every time, you know, they fail. And like these countries, after they came in and started these unnecessary wars with absolutely zero justification to be there, then they like basically took these poor innocent people to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, which is like probably a war crime in itself. Then they tortured them using like like this maybe isn't like in the open, but they used electroshock devices. They used like chemicals on them. They used like horrible stuff. And then had like the complete disrespect of human decency to take glory photos. And you can find the glory photos. Just search Guantanamo Bay glory photos, and I mean, absolutely detestable. And like, this is stuff that will never, ever be forgiven. I mean, just this type of conduct. You know, I don't even have words for it. It makes me absolutely disgraced to be an American citizen that they did this, and they pushed this on the news. They peddled it every day on Fox News, all these other news channels. And people line their pockets, and they talk about bid rigging, and how, like, you know, companies like Halliburton and all these little contractors, you know, line their pockets at the cost of the American taxpayer and these poor innocent people. And I'm not even gonna, you know, you see, it's a very passionate topic to me. But another little side note on Vietnam. It's actually come out, and like I found this out with Ted Gunderson. Like, please, if you're in like Ted Gunderson stuff, like two things with him. One is look up the Finders, Ted Gunderson, the PDFs that he has, his actual like FBI level research, like on the satanic cult. And he says, so then, if you also look at his presentation, like it really was inspiring for me. Years ago, I saw The Great Conspiracy, and he talks about many things, about 9/11, about other things. And he said that like they brought back heroin in the bodies of the dead GIs' cavities. Like they basically filled their bodies with heroin, and this golden triangle of dope, and then allowed it, then it brought it back, and then peddled it to satanic cults and allowed it to be pushed on the East Coast. The East Coast has always like had like the highest quality dope, like basically in the entire world, and this was for a reason, because they saw this years ago, this issue with this battle for the real estate, and like you go down to like Virginia area, like Virginia suburbs, and like all this beautiful farmland, like used to be sprawling plantations and estates, and it's like all built up with piece of crap townhomes now. Really, really sad. And eventually, I've read in alien books before too, Technology of the Gods by David Hatcher Childress, that like all this technology has been around for like thousands and thousands of years, and that like after the carrying capacity gets to a certain point, they basically allow the detonation of a whole bunch of nuclear bombs to happen, so that they can call the herd, and everything, then they come out and everything starts over again. And I don't think this is so far fetched. This is just like one theory that I've heard, and basically everything has already been thought of. Like they allow certain people to get credit for certain ideas, achievements, all kinds of stuff. But there really is no new ideas, and it like really takes like the gust out of like life when you find this out. But I really do believe in this deeper agenda with the tall white aliens versus the grays, and Edward Snowden talked about this, and like stuff that was never revealed on our news media. But the whole thing about like whoever comes out on top of this mess we're in now, we'll have the control of the basically the currency system and the one world government. There's other weapons that are not talked about as well, like particle beams, death rays. Nostradamus prophesied about this. There's this guy, Donald Trump's uncle, that supposedly stole the particle beam, like death ray idea from Nikola Tesla. And like, from what I've gathered, they probably had it, and then like basically there was probably wars in space that like the Chinese took it over or something like this. I don't know. But I've already talked about John Forbes Nash and like other like his like scientific work, but he was really, really big into game theory. Like that, he like actually like revolutionized the whole concept of game theory, and as we know it, at least anyway. And like I've said before that like, okay, America has this horrible reputation around the world. We're basically sitting ducks. The Russians, Chinese, Iran, North Koreans are like aliens. They have people that are so advanced that they could literally tell you the passwords to your accounts without even needing to hack it. They're like, they can remote view. They're psychic. Just amazing, like divine individuals. And this is the real deal. In the 1960s, Russia had remote viewed maps of our entire detailed underground bunker system that entangles the entire U.S. And basically, another little side note, like this stuff could get you killed talking about bunkers. Like, to be honest with you, like there's a huge list of people that have been killed talking about this. Just search online, how long does concrete last? Like, it lasts for about like 70 years. And like we're already into like, we're coming up on like 70 years, if not 80. So like from my and like not only that, but there was very, very poor design in a lot of these. Like there was like a hurry to get these structures made because they thought for sure we were going to have an imminent war. I don't know how it didn't happen years ago, but notably the Chinese put rice in their concrete, and their concrete lasts a lot longer. And that like they like the best ones are, I guess, to use solid rock, like to not have to use concrete. And from what I've gathered, out of 100% of the entire bunker systems, 60% of them, like the open air big ones, are known. Like there's literally highways that go from each one. I've talked about in the past that I believe like the Bushes, the Waltons, and other prominent families have their own little reclusive ones that are not connected to these like networks. So, anyways, out of the 60% are known and easily accessible. Like you could like anybody with like a backhoe could probably get into some of these. Okay, so then the other 40%, 20% of them are known where they are and probably a little bit more difficult to get into. And between that 20% and the remaining 20%, which is off the grid, maybe a little bit harder to find, maybe some of them go into the ocean or, like out in reclusive areas, basically like they're going to have to go off the grid because like if they can, like if they have any type of communications, amongst the other people in the world, they're going to be able to be triangulated and be found just through the triangulation. A big one here, and like I believe there's already stuff going on. There's like these buffer zones. Like I believe that the Germans have the best engineering, and like Swiss and other people, maybe Russia, but like I really believe that they didn't put adequate containment buffer zones. And that, like, understand that, like, look at the periodic table of elements. Look where uranium is. Look where plutonium is. Look where all the nuclear high density, very heavily particles are. They're all at the end. They're all at the bottom. They're heavier than gold. And like what happens is through sublimation they sink. They're going to go down and down and down. So any like they can't just have it in a bubble. Like eventually it would create problems, obviously. So like you'd almost have to have like a one layer that's like a buffer layer, the second layer which is like a better buffer layer, and then a third one which is like your true, like you have like multiple layers of filtration, and they don't have it. Like if you open up the door on some of these one time, it would create a vacuum and suck in this air. And like because they're not breathing it, like any little bit is going to affect them. Whereas me or you or anybody who's still outside is probably already acclimated to the whole, toxins that are, who knows? I mean, if you're here in 10, 20 years and you don't have cancer or your lungs, are still functioning, then it's probably a miracle. But all in all, the end of the world, is a very scary thought. And even if you could last, a long time, there would be no hope. They like the underground. It says they've done like studies. Like even after like 7 to 14 days of being in darkness underground, you start to go crazy. Like you start to basically lose like your perception of day and night. Like it's like gone, and like you basically start like become very, very susceptible to being completely controlled. Like anybody that's under there, like would know that they're not the ones in charge. That like there's somebody that's controlling them, their food, their air, their schedule, and I ascertain, like, this is my game theory. That, like, say if, like, even if, like, everything, like, they had, like, perfect, like, animals under there, like arks or whatever. That, like, basically the U.S. would probably last about 148 years. Max. China, Russia, Iran, Korea, and others, probably, like, 461. Like, this is because of the genetic purity. The real gold mine here is the Nepal-Tibet region. The key to the whole show. Like, you're talking about like 20,000 feet above sea level. Where, like, in my opinion, yeah, you probably like have a hard time breathing there as it is anyway. But essentially, like the whole run to the hills scenario is like what would manifest. You would want to be somewhere above the threshold of the heavier nuclear dense particles. Just understand that. But given the genetic purity, I believe that I call it Root China would last the longest. And after 2 to 3 generations, born in captivity of seeing no light, you would see major decreases in biological output and neurological function. And the only reason that the U.S. would last this long is because they have the stolen bloodlines already. And, the U.S. thinks that they would make it. Everybody probably thinks they would make it. The truth is, whoever has the Messiah would like basically be able to control the aether, like come out and like start like the atmospheric change all over again, and omnipresence. The omnipresence is a huge thing as well underground. It's like the ability to like teach, like if China and Russia had this omnipresence, they could teach the world that like okay, the U.S. wasn't the good ones here and started all this. They basically got themselves into a pickle and started all this BS, and like after 2 to 3 generations of teaching this and knowing this. Like even like the people would give up on like any type of nationalism and like continually have to be like mind controlled and brainwashed, and like they would eventually realize like it would fail, it would falter after maybe not in 10 years, 5-10 years, but in time. So like and like you're saying the whole thing about the Messiah is like very hypothetical. They say the Messiah is going to reign for 1,000 years, undying, like for 1,000 years. I don't know what happens after that, but 1,000 years. So say after 461 years, like basically. And like 148 U.S. dies off. They probably have like automatic detonation systems. They're like they do. Like Russia notably talks about this to where like if things got bad, they would like start like they have like computers that would take over and like to make sure that nobody won this war. It's like that ugly. But 461 years, China could come out. This is after the shelf life, basically of of their weapons would like end. Like, all the computer stuff would end. They probably would run out of stuff to make, new circuitry, and like give up on just the whole idea of proliferation of nuclear weapons. And a lot of other people would just die off and give up. And like I said, the window of the arms shelf life would be exceeded. And God, I believe God would most likely step in, and there would be some type of rapture. People would be like, destroyed. The whole thing would be destroyed before, any of this would happen. I think before microchipping and all the other stuff in prophecy it talks about. There's this notion of the rapture where people would like to be raptured and then come back after this to build the temple. That's another plausible scenario. But again, like I said, people who say that Israel and the U.S. are so close, they forget that 8 years of Obama allowed for the creation of ISIS and destroyed relations between these former allies. Israelis, or a lot of them are like myself, are Ashkenazi Jewish descent, speak Russian, and thankful Putin put an end to the nonsense there. I believe that Russia and China both know that the average working class people in America are not the evil ones. China and Russia are by no means perfect, and have a lot of issues and systemic problems in their own country, and they basically had to play the West game. And just understand, like, what you see on the news again, and like what you think to be true is not. Like, it's filtered at least 3 times before it ever gets to your eyes. And this is another reason I'm so passionate about what I do. This is the end of presentation 13, video 2. I'm going to move on. I have 14 and then the final 15. I'm looking forward to close this out, and I hope that I get some feedback, and everybody's enjoying my hard work here. Take care, folks.